I'm going to be very polite. I won't be writing any comments on the Daily Mail. Hi guys, it's Matt Haycox here, and today I'm here with Emma Sayle from Killing Kittens. Now Emma is one of the UK's leading female entrepreneurs who launched Killing Kittens in 2005, which is what basically made her a household name. The brand now has over 100,000 members in countries all around the world, and she's also an author, a philanthropist, and she's even run an ultra marathon. So thanks a lot for coming today, Emma.
Thanks for having me.
Listen, obviously I've given us a very, very brief introduction about you. Can you tell us a bit more about you, and and certainly kind of go back to when the business started and tell us about your career to date?
I launched Killing Kittens back in 2005. It was sort of based on when Sex and the City had come out and Summers had hit the high street. Lalo toys had gone into Selfridges. There was this kind of, in the media, talking about this female sexual revolution going on. But I was reading about it, but not actually seeing it happen. And I was working in PR, having started in financial PR and had some shitty kind of episodes with bosses and harassment issues, which I'd complained about a few times, and each time told by HR that I'd be a troublemaker and did I really want to pursue it. And then it sort of happened again. And I complained again, and again was told, look, you will be seen as a troublemaker. If you want to keep working in the city, then you kind of got to keep your mouth shut. And it was then that I discovered that the head of HR happened to be an old family friend of the director I was complaining about. So went, sod this, left, because at the time, I was an insecure little 21, 22-year-old, didn't know whether I wanted to keep working in the city, but I went into entertainment PR. And ended up doing the PR for the erotica show. And that was sort of the time, as I said, when, the Sex and the City was out and all this was sort of bubbling away in the media. And the erotica show and other clients I met within the show who happened to be in the adult world all wanted mainstream PR and also wanted to make their products or brands or setups more female friendly based on what was going on in society. And so the more I looked into it, the more I just saw that everything was run by men, all the adult sites, whether it was porn, the shows, even sex toy brands, they're all male companies claiming to be female friendly. And I just thought, well, you're not. And you're not female friendly, you're coming from a very male perspective, and looked more into it and realised that actually, there's a big difference between the way men think about sex. It's why, men can watch brightly lit porn and get turned on. It does nothing. For women, it's sort of, women as much, the touch, the feel, the smell, the ambience, it's everything except the actual act of sex. And, the biggest, sexual organ in a woman is her brain. So, which I constantly tell my husband that turn that on, I'm all yours. 6 years on, he's still working on it. So I just sort of saw this difference, and also at the same time saw in my personal life, just through friends that I was involved with in London, what they were sort of up to, and there was this kind of Primrose Hill posse going on. Back then, they're all sort of shagging away left, right, and centre, and with some very strong women involved in it. And I was at a wedding in Ibiza with a lot of that lot, and hadn't slept for about 3 days. And someone phoned in who couldn't make the wedding and said, "Are you guys just all sat around killing kittens right now?" And we had this conversation about what was that, and it's every time you masturbate, God kills a kitten. So I, in my sleepless state, went, right, that's it. I'm launching a business. It's called Killing Kittens. It's KK. It'll always be KK because I like the letter K, and it's strong. And I'm gonna, I want masks like Eyes Wide Shut, and I want rules like Rules of Fight Club, and I just want to basically create a platform for women.
And had you been to any of these kind of things in your personal life at this point, or is it just your friends?
No, that's the thing. And people are always, yeah, sure. Yeah, sure, you haven't got tits up in the middle of it all. But I can honestly say, hand on heart, it's never been something I've personally wanted to throw myself into, and
just, I guess, when I say surprised, I don't believe it. I just mean it's surprising that you had such a clear vision for it.
Yeah.
As in, I could almost imagine, okay, you've never been part of it, but I'll have a dabble in this, and the brand will develop on, and I'll learn new ideas as we go.
I'm quite a big watcher, and I went to an all-girls boarding school for 10 years, and everything to me has always been about having girls' backs, and my girlfriends have been my family. And I'm always, I've always been very much about having, girls need to be nicer to girls, and on the support front. And I saw the way a lot of girlfriends were being treated, and especially on the sex front, it was very much sort of, and it still is a bit. It's got a lot better, but if girls had a one night stand, they were sluts. If guys had a one night stand, they're legends and get slapped on the back. And I'd sit there and listen to guy friends of mine saying, they'd met really nice girls, but she slept with loads of people, so she's not girlfriend material. And I would literally hit the ceiling and go, well, why are you boyfriend material? It was that imbalance that it's kind of anger. And I think childhood is what I had a very controlling dad, narcissistic dad, who sort of controlled mum in big ways. And I kind of watched this. I think the passion and the fire in my belly, that there was this imbalance the way in the male and female when it comes to the sex.
So from having that idea in Ibiza to launching the first party, how long was that?
About 2 months.
Okay.
Because I was working in the PR.
You were still working.
I was still
at the time.
doing PR, but working for myself. And I had some clients who had venues who were club owners in London. And when I said this is what I want to do, one of them offered me one of his venues. This little place in Covent Garden that actually we still use once a month. And I had sort of a load of potential members and people I knew to come, and girls to come to the party. And the first party I did had 40 people in it. So for the first...
What was the mix, men and women?
It was probably about 70% girls, 30% guys. So right from day one, and that's what, nothing's changed in the whole setup of the business. It's all, it's a safe place for women to explore their sexuality online and offline. So there's always been an online setup, and there's always been the offline setup. And the rules are single men can't come on their own. They have to be accompanied by women. And at the actual events, men can't approach women they don't know. They have to wait for the women to do the approaching, and nothing. That's always been there, and that's sort of the basis of our entire business.
So tell me, a question for me, something I'm very personally interested in. I don't know how much you know about my background, but my kind of original, well, not original, but my first successful business, if you like, was in lap dancing. And I opened, probably about a year or so before yourself, I opened my first lap dancing club, which was, I guess, with a very similar thought process to you in taking it mainstream. It was... let's say Stringfellas was a household brand at the time. Spearmint Rhino had just come to the UK, and we were probably reaching that era of social acceptability, if you like, where girls or women were starting to go either with the husbands or boyfriends, or they were starting to go on their own, and it was becoming a lot more socially acceptable and a lot less taboo than it ever was. And so I opened in 2004. I think we opened our second venue about 6 or 7 or 8 months later. And in
London?
No, we were never in London. We're from Blackpool at the most north point down to Bristol at the most south. I'm from Leeds originally. And we were in, our major cities were places like Leeds or Birmingham, and then we did quite a few provinces as well. But as much as I'd love to take credit for all of our success, I do always put a lot down to the kind of the right time at the right place, but particularly the right time. In that I think the UK was ready for it at that point. And I specifically talk about the UK because the States is always anywhere between 10 and 50 years ahead of us or
it jumps back 50 years, or the next day it jumps forward. It's a minefield.
But particularly from a lap dancing perspective, strip clubs, they were a lot more prolific, if you like. But I feel like I kind of got to ride the wave of the fact that lap dancing in general was becoming more popular and, like I said, more socially acceptable. How much of a tougher time do you think you would have had if you were trying to launch in '95 instead of 2005?
I think, do you know what, to be honest, it probably, launching back then, whether it was 2005 or 1995, the UK wasn't ready, like, socially. And, I've had lots of crappy messages and been trolled and lost friends over launching when I launched. And I think when it comes to female sexuality, I don't think that it started to have a bit of a chat about it, like I said, with Sex and the City and Ann Summers. So there was a slight bit, but society and especially was very much not in a place where that was acceptable. And
I guess, like you said, I mean, yes, we probably are more so now than we were then, but I guess the difference between our two businesses, you know, was, I guess, I was looking and you're touching, if you like, and as open-minded as people like to be. I guess there's one thing being a voyeur, and it's a complete next level. You know, admitting to the fact that, you know, you go and partake in sex parties.
But I think you're right on the riding. It's not. I don't think it's lucky to, you know, you do ride the wave and you get at the front of the wave. But I think, you know, when you said you're lucky, you know, there were timing and stuff, but you saw that timing. That's the thing, and it might, when you look back at it, it might be something that's quite easy, and you think, well, that was an obvious thing to do, but well, then why wasn't everyone doing it? So actually, there's a big risk with you doing what you did. And when you launched in the abuse I got, probably I had maybe 1 in 20 people actually got what I was doing and wanted to do and saw the bigger picture. 19 told me I was ridiculous, but to me, I saw that it was needed, and I saw things were starting to change, and I always said that, and I saw that we needed a big, you know, the online part was going to be a big part. And, you know, back then, I think Facebook had only just come out that year, so social media wasn't in existence, really.
And what is the online model for you? What's
so
the online part of the business?
From the start, it's sort of been an online community, an online sort of social network dating site model.
People talking,
yeah, so you have to
online.
join the site, and then, so we've always had a basic site in place for the 14 years, but it's kind of, we've changed sites. It's been a bane in my existence. I'm not a tech person. And then sort of three years ago, I looked at the figures and saw that actually over 50% of our revenue was coming from the online business. But we were at the time a team of 4 who were all really offline people, blagging the social media, blagging, you know, that online side of it, and it was just sort of organically growing itself. And when I looked at it, I thought, actually, you know, imagine what would happen if I actually concentrate on the tech and the online side and got people on board who knew what they were doing, who could actually take it and make it fly. And so that's got, you know, an amazing CRO, Adley, on board 2 years ago, and he's very much the tech strategy partner. He's, you know, real deep tech. We're like a marriage. We kind of go to bed hating each other, wake up in the morning loving each other, which is a complete chalk and cheese. But he's so tech and the online world. He's got better at speaking to people face to face, and I've got better at understanding how the digital world works.
And tell me, the online and the offline side of things, are they completely different customers, or you know, does everyone who kind of talks online ultimately either go to or aspire to go to a party?
So to come to one of the full-on Killing Kittens events, you have to be registered online. But as an example of numbers, I think we've got about 120,000 members online, and we have between like sort of 10 and 20 events a month all over the world, and the attendee numbers are about 1,000. So we have about 1,000 attending offline events a month, and 120,000 online. So there is that, and it was those figures I looked at, and I started to see sort of 3 years ago and thought, this is actually, there's, you know, actually the business is actually more of a tech digital company now than it is the offline, and actually the offline events is what is sort of, I call it, you know, the iceberg. It's the tip of the iceberg, and it's the tip that everyone's seen, and it's got the Daily Mail headlines, but the whole mothership under the water, the iceberg under the water, is what the business is. And there's 15 people in the office, of which 11 are all the online side. The events team there's 3 or 4 events.
And tell me, how different a business do you think it would have been as a business and a brand if you were a man, not a woman? Yeah, obviously, you make a big play on the. I always
actually say, you know, when I launched it, and I said I'm not stupid. I realised that, you know, very early on, that if I wasn't, you know, a blonde private school girl launching this in my early 20s, if I was a 60-year-old guy doing it, it would have been a very different media picture painted. So, you know, I understand that. I mean, that helped a lot at the beginning, but then at the same time, there's been a lot of sort of setups pop up. We've seen them, you know, there's 1 or 2 every sort of 3-4 months that pops up that uses our wording, that says it's for women, it's the parties, it's masked, and you know, we say they're set up by shaggers, so they're people in it, that's very much in the lifestyle, very much important to them, and they just think, oh well, we can do the parties too. So it's sort of, yes, it might have started as parties, but we've evolved into a much bigger entity and what it stands for, and it's a massive community, and we have big online forum chat groups and community managers and online comms, we call them, which are female members who monitor all the forums and answer questions, and it's that kind of sense of belonging that is the sort of the foundation of what KK is all about.
Obviously, you've mentioned a couple of times, obviously, about the headlines and some of the more sensationalised comments. But I guess you get as much negative press as you do positive. How do you deal with that negative press? And do you feel that in your line of business there is any such thing as bad publicity, or does ultimately everything lead to increased members?
I think, to be honest, we've been lucky, and I would say from day one we're like Ron Sayle. We do exactly what we say on the lid. It's sort of, I think often you get the bad publicity and the bad headlines if you're hiding something, if they're trying to find stuff out. Whereas I've been very upfront and blatant and let some journalists come in at the beginning, to see what it was about and report exactly what went on. And it's very hard to get bad publicity if there's no lying. You're giving them all the information, and then it's a case of people can judge it, and it's not for everyone. I stopped reading. I think the first couple of years I did take a lot personally, and I'd read the Daily Mail comments, never read the comments on a Daily Mail article. And then I just, I stopped, and I call it my invisible force field, where it's just sort of, I've got amazing friends and family, and they're the ones I care about what they think, and I'm not going to worry about, all these people who have time to comment on news sites and say it's disgusting and seedy or comment on what I look like, or that's just what they do.
But and I guess a big thing I always talk about is knowing your audience and being realistic to the fact that people who aren't your audience are never going to be your audience and are never going to buy from you. And I think prime case in point with what you're talking about there, and that yes, look, once you get past the personal negativity that obviously it might upset you about the comments to you as an individual. The reality is that any of those people writing shit about you online either are never going to be your customer anyway, so make zero impact on the business, or probably some of them are your best customers, but they're kind of closet shaggers, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. And I've learned quite early on that it literally is. It just bounces off me, and you could sit there now and be as rude as you want and tell me it's disgusting and personal attacks, but I don't take it personally. I'm very quick to bounce it back and go, that's their issues, that's their insecurities, that's their personal opinion. So, knock yourself out.
Don't worry, I'm going to be very polite. I won't be writing any comments on the Daily Mail. So listen, obviously a big part of our audience are people who have either got businesses or are looking to start up businesses, and they are looking for investment. Obviously, when I was doing my kind of background on yourself, obviously you've taken in investment. I say recently. I forget what time the article was.
Last summer.
Last summer. But you waited a good 9 or 10 years to do that. I guess my questions are, why did you wait that long? Do you think it would have changed the business? Oh, I guess it would have changed the business materially if you'd have done it earlier, but what would you have done if you'd done it earlier? And how do you feel having the investor on board, and do you still very much run your own ship?
Yeah, I think on the investment front, I think people can be too quick to think they need money. A lot of people, it's like, it's all about the money, and we're going to launch a business and we're going to earn this amount of money, and it's that kind of slightly greedy, oh, well, you're being offered £100,000, let's take it all. And I'm not a money person. I've never been a money person. And, to me, launching KK was very much something, there was a fire in my belly. I was angry. I wanted something, a balance restored kind of thing. So to start with, I didn't need the money. It was organic. It was very I had a few PR clients on the side that kind of paid my rent. So for the first 5 years, it was, I had some PR retainers coming in. It was one party a month. It was just me. And I didn't need the money, and I was offered money, and I've always had people offering to invest money in it, and especially guys who just see it as seedy sex world. You know, it's full of that, those kind of investors, potential. But what would I have done with the money? I don't think, as I said, society wasn't ready. We rode a wave that's been a very slow wave coming, you know, and when sort of, you know, the Me Too movement started 2.5 years ago, and Trump came in, I was like, as soon as that sort of happened in January, I was like, right, this is it. This is where we need to go, 100 miles per hour, 24/7, and get on the front of it, because we've been going a decade and waiting for this moment where we own it. And we launched the whole tech and online digital platform in line with it, and we bring it out of the sex world and it comes into that female empowerment world where we tick every box and provide the platform for anything from professional women, you know, wanting to meet other professional women, and we're launching an app called Sister in the summer, which is kind of a female LinkedIn, through to the educational side of what we do, which is the workshops and the talks and the weekends away, and then the online side and the lifestyle blog, and we've got our main big app launching in May that's kind of sexy Bumble meets Facebook on that front. So it's kind of, for the last 2 years, we have not stopped. It's been full on, getting out in front of that wave, because society's ready. And that's why, because it's been very much offline with a very simple online site, I haven't needed investment. And I've taken on people as the cash flow has allowed it. And I've had a very small salary, because, you know, as you mentioned right at the beginning, I'm an ultra endurance athlete, so I can go years waiting for things to drop. I'm still waiting. It's still not ready for some of the things we've got in mind. And so, but what happened, you know, when I looked at those figures 3 years ago and realised it was very much the tech and digital world that we needed to properly nail, that's where you need the money. That cost a fortune. And that the event cash flow was not going to cover that, and it's kind of go big or go home. So we did raise on Cedars last summer. But again, back in January, February, we originally looked at, you know, going to a few individuals and getting we wanted 500,000, a big ticket, some big tickets. But I said, I don't really want sort of 5 city boys, you know, flopping the cocks around going, you know, we own some of this business, you know, the sex business. We're very much community based, and we just sat there and went, because we've got this big community, we'd rather have sort of 400 people thinking they own the business, even if they put a tenner in, and being passionate and ambassadors, than...
How many people did you end up
about
raising?
360.
360.
And we didn't, you know, the biggest ticket was 50 grand, and we actually capped at about 30 grand as the big tickets. We allowed a couple in. But we're looking to do a Series A raise starting in May, June this year.
And tell me, because I didn't realise you actually raised the money on Cedars, but that's quite interesting, because we're actually just about to launch a book, which is the Funding Guru's Guide to the Ultimate Crowdfunding Campaign. So
cool.
so I can pick your brains on that now, before, because obviously a big thing I always talk about, you know, any potential clients or potential borrowers or you know, companies who are looking for investment on peer-to-peer, is I think, you know, people very wrongly see it as a magic bullet. That, you know, you go to these peer-to-peer platforms and all these businesses have raised a load of money. But for me, the reason these businesses raise a load of money is the 6, 12, 18 months of work that they've done prior to the raise, or all the work they've done from day one of inception, you know, building that brand. So I mean, when you talk about like the 50 grand being your highest amount, was that someone you'd kind of brought in offline as an anchor investor? What
we did, we sent out, because you have to be careful when you can't ask members for money. There's, you know, the laws, the legalities of it are raising. So, but we'd sent out an email to everyone just saying we're about to do a raise, and if you're interested, register on this link. If you're a high net worth individual, they're the ones that you can actually speak direct to, then register your interest here. So when we did that, we had the database, and then the ones that registered high net worth individual ones, we could actually speak to on the phone, and Hadley did a lot of those conversations and and as you said, you don't just put the idea on there. You know, Cedars and Crowdcube, they are properly nails on going through your figures and your offering, and and you have to have the video, and then but all your figures need to be completely.
But I guess for me the big point to get across, I'm not asking you to diss your seeders who've got you the money here now. Is for me, whether you use Crowdcube seeders, whoever you use, you have to do the work.
That's what I'm saying. You can't just go, right, I've got an idea for this new drink, I'm just going to throw it up there with a load of cool artwork and expect people to, A, they wouldn't put you on their platform, and B, people aren't stupid. Even if you're putting a tenner in, you do look at stuff, so you have to have your whole business deck up there with the figures in that make sense. And we're fortunate, and that's why we did it. We just thought we've got this community that's sort of this diehard loyal tribe following, and a lot of the members have been part of it for over a decade. So they've kind of seen the story and they've seen the growth, and the proof is in, we've kind of proved it on one level to them. It wasn't sort of a new business idea. They could see what's happened and they could see what was going on in society, and that, so they could go, well, actually, it makes sense, and hopefully we'll deliver.
So how many of those 360 investors are actual Killing Kittens members?
Only less than half.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, it surprised us actually, less than half. But then we had it as a private platform for a couple of weeks out to the members, and then we opened it up publicly.
But I guess as well, you can argue that number both ways. You can say surprisingly less than half, or for me the more important take home from it is the fact that half of your investors are already customers of yours, i.e., hammering home the importance of how much offline work you need to do.
And I think for crowd stuff, they normally say there's this kind of seeded level that when you start the raise, you've already got about a quarter, 30% of your money nailed down, whether that's family and friends but you just know that you're starting it. You're not starting it ever. No one ever starts with zero raised when it gets put out there. You kind of have, and I think they want you to have that 30% already done.
What's been your biggest setback?
My biggest setback is probably being myself, and that starting in my early 20s, that self-doubt and insecurity has sort of held me back from having the belief and being too cared about what other people thought. But the minute I sort of turned 30 and the self-awareness came about, and I realised my strengths and weaknesses and stopped really giving a shit what anyone thought about me or my business, sort of allowed me to really sort of jump forward in leaps and bounds business-wise and just sort of go for it.
So one question I always like to ask my guests before they leave is how you'd like to be remembered once you're gone, but not gone from here, gone from this world. And I always like the question to be specifically answered as how you would like to have your tombstone engraved.
I know my email sign off at the moment would be pretty good. He asked me what my favourite position was, and I said CEO. That's quite a long gravestone. Or just, to be honest, she came, she saw, she conquered.
Fantastic. Well, listen, one last thing I want to ask you before you go. Every time we have experts on whatever business sector they're in on here, I always like to ask them their 5 top tips for something very specific. And for you, what I was thinking of last night was I'd like to know what your 5 top tips for promoting a business in a taboo marketplace are.
So in a taboo market, you're dealing with a lot of haters. So you have to block the haters out for a start. Because otherwise you're gonna get a lot of self-doubt. So you've got to go with your gut, and if you believe in it, then you just have to go for it. And depending on what the taboo market is, I mean, we've got a lot of barriers that stop us promoting our business, because if it's seen as adult or sex, then you can't do the normal, digital marketing ads, or you can't do ads on Facebook or any of that sort of stuff, and your pages might be shut down. So you have to kind of think out the box and do.
How can you reposition it from being taboo to being mainstream?
On that front. So you've got to kind of, you've got to be creative on that impact and the promoting and that, and look at old school roots. Like, you get a good PR and go old school PR and in the media, then they will place the articles and come up with really good feature ideas. Then a story in the news section of the Mail or the Telegraph or Cosmopolitan magazine or anything like that is worth millions more than a Facebook ad. So I come from a PR background, so I'm slightly biased, but I just think you can't beat you can't beat good media, good placement media, and it's a lot cheaper than the digital marketing or advertising side. So if it's in a taboo market, I'd go down that. I'd go PR before you do. Just trying to think of other.
We can stop.
We
can stop at 4.
Yeah.
We've had 4 good ones,
Yeah.
so I won't push you with the 5th. Well, listen, Emma, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. Super
Thanks for having
interesting, and I hope you guys at home enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed talking to Emma. There was lots of interesting things I wanted to ask her, but some really cool things which have come out of the interview that I wasn't expecting either. So thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me on.